There are no roaring battles at the beginning of this story. No clash of steel, no tanks rolling across open plains. There's silence and snow. White, dead snow stretching for hundreds of kilometers. A forest that looks like the world has ended, where the only sound comes when someone makes a mistake. And in the middle of that frozen stillness, a man, just over 5 feet tall, dressed in white, no scope, and more confirmed kills than any sniper in recorded history. His name, Simo Häyhä. To the Soviets, he was known simply as the White Death. When the Soviet Union invaded Finland on November 30th, 1939, they expected a swift victory. And they had reasons to be confident over 1 million troops, thousands of tanks, total air superiority, overwhelming numbers, and firepower. Finland had only 300,000 soldiers. Many were reservists, hunters, farmers, men like Simo. But the Soviets didn't understand what they were walking into. The Winter War wasn't a conventional campaign. It was a labyrinth of white hell where temperatures dropped below 40 C and every tree might hide a rifle. It was a war where survival depended on who breathed quieter, who waited longer, who shot once and killed. Simo Häyhä was born in 1905 in the village of WWII, just a few kilometers from the Russian border. He grew up in a world where boys learned how to shoot before they could drive a tractor. He was quiet as a child, always watching. By 12 he hit a fox from 150 meters. At 17 he joined the Finnish Civil Guard, but he wasn't a born soldier. He looked like a farmer, not a killer. Modest, short, soft-spoken, and yet he became the Red Army's worst nightmare. When the war started, Simo was assigned to Company 6 of the 34 Infantry Regiment. He was given an old but reliable Mosin Nagant M2830 rifle, a basic Finnish model, no optics. When other snipers received scoped rifles, he refused. He said scopes forced you to raise your head, made you a target, that the lenses fogged up, reflected sunlight. Iron sights were enough. Every day for 100 days, Simo went hunting, not for deer, for men. He buried himself in the snow, dug a sniper's nest, breathed through snow to hide his breath, wore white gloves, rubbed snow on his face so it wouldn't reflect light. He sometimes lay motionless for 10 hours, no food, no water, just silence, waiting. And when a Soviet soldier stepped into view, 1 shot, 1 kill. By February 1940 he had over 200 confirmed kills, by March over 500. But numbers don't tell the full story. It was his method that terrified. Simo didn't work in teams. He hunted alone. No spotter, no radio. Just him. Moving like a ghost. Disappearing. Travelling on skis. Predicting where patrols would come through. Picking the best vantage points with the cleanest shot and the lowest chance of detection. The Red Army tried everything. They sent snipers, artillery, recon squads. They even dropped propaganda leaflets offering rewards for his death. No one got him until March 6th, 1940. A Soviet soldier fired an explosive round that struck Simo in the face. He survived, barely. He lost part of his jaw and cheek. He fell into a coma for a week and awoke on the very day the war ended, after nearly losing his face to an artillery round. Simo spent weeks in a military hospital. At first, no one thought he would survive. His forehead was crushed, teeth shattered, tongue torn. But he wasn't ready to die, not after what he'd done. Not with more to live for. When he finally opened his eyes, doctors were stunned. Some called it a miracle, others sheer willpower. But one thing was certain, this man had killed hundreds. To some, a hero. To others, a living legend. And to his enemies, a nightmare. Before he was wounded, his confirmed tally stood at 505. Unconfirmed? Possibly over 542, in just under 100 days. That is an average of over 5 Soviet soldiers killed per day. Without backup, without a scope, without modern optics. Eventually, Soviet command understood the strategic impact of one man. He wasn't just eliminating soldiers, he was breaking morale. Some Red Army troops refused to enter forests. They whispered, "The White Death is out there." But Simo never saw himself as a hero. In rare interviews after the war, he was intensely private. He simply said, "I did what I had to do." He didn't speak of glory. He spoke of his rifle, his technique, how much breath control mattered, calm, terrain. For him, it wasn't a game of points. It was craftsmanship, precision, a kill or be killed profession. And how did he do it without a scope? He explained. A scope fogs up, reflects light, forces you to raise your head. Iron sights let you stay low, invisible. In 30°C temperatures, Simo could lie in place for 12 hours, buried in snow, packing snow around his legs, elbows, arms, breathing through fabric covered in powder to prevent steam, even placing ice in front of the muzzle to prevent a snow puff from revealing his position. His rifle? The Finnish Mosin Nagant M2830, a refined version of the Russian original, with a superb trigger. He trained with it long before war broke out. As a hunter, as a marksman, as a civil guard competitor, it wasn't the rifle that killed over 500 men. It was the man who listened to the silence, who knew that the best moment to shoot wasn't when you saw your target, but when your target didn't see you. The Soviets weren't fools. They realized this wasn't random. One sector was losing too many soldiers too fast, without warning. First they thought it was a team, then new tech. But soon reports came in. It is one man, alone, white camo, iron sights, and accuracy like we've never seen. They sent snipers, their best, none returned. Simo always saw them first, always fired first. They shelled his positions with artillery, hundreds of shells, nothing. He was gone. They sent hunter-killer squads, special recon units, whose only job was to find and kill the White Death. They vanished too. Out of desperation, some commanders proposed absurd measures, carpet bombing the forest. Others offered bounties, 50,000 rubles for his head. But how do you kill what you can see? And so the myth grew, not just among Russians, but among the Finns too. Soldiers whispered about a ghost, who didn't eat, who didn't sleep, whose rifle never missed, who showed no mercy. He was no longer Simo. He was a legend, the White Death. After the war, someone asked him if he felt satisfaction in killing so many. He replied, "I did my duty. I defended my country." He never bragged, never collected trophies, never posed for photos. He simply returned from missions and said nothing. In truth, he was the opposite of the monster his enemies imagined. Not a killer, not a machine. After the war, he returned to his farm, raised dogs, worked the land, spoke little. When journalists visited, he often refused interviews. Sometimes he just smiled and said, "We did what we had to do." But let us not pretend Simo Häyhä wasn't just a hero. He was an anomaly. No other sniper before or since has matched his confirmed count. Armies around the world have studied him for decades. Why was he so effective? How did he hit so many? It wasn't satellites or tech. It was forest, snow, and a century-old rifle. The answer is harsh and simple. He was built for that war, raised in those woods, raised hunting, raised in silence. He had something you can to train the patience to wait, the ears to listen, and the nerve to fire once and never miss. The Winter War lasted just 105 days, but for Simo Häyhä, every single day was the battlefield. When he was shot in the face on March the 6th, 1940, the war was nearly over. 2 weeks later, on March 13th, peace was signed. Finland had lost 11 of its land, but kept its independence. For a country of just 4 million, who stood alone against a Soviet empire, it was nothing short of a miracle. Simo didn't he know peace had come? He was still unconscious, his face torn apart by an explosive round. When he finally woke up 14 days after the war ended, his first question was, "Did we win?" His road to recovery was long, months of facial reconstruction. Surgeons rebuilt his jaw, cheek, even parts of his teeth. He carried the scars for life. He didn't care. "The important thing is, I lived," he said. The Finnish government didn't forget him. He was awarded the nation's highest military honours, promoted from corporal to lieutenant, a jump almost unheard of in Finnish ranks, awarded personally by Marshal Mannerheim. Most soldiers spend years to earn that. Simo did it in 105 days. Yet he avoided the spotlight, hated speeches, hated parades. He returned to the countryside, lived on a small farm near Ruokolahti, close to the Russian border. There he raised dogs, rode horses, hunted. Foreign reporters from Finland, Sweden, even the US sought him out. He declined most. When he did speak, he spoke briefly, asked, "Oi." Once how he felt about killing so many men, he said, "I only did what I was trained to do, and I did it well." He carried no bitterness, spoke of no revenge. He didn't hate the Russians. He viewed the war as a job that needed doing, called himself just a marksman. But history saw something greater. Years passed. Finland fought again in the continuation war, but Simo didn't return to the front. Declared unfit for active duty, he trained younger soldiers, shared techniques, taught patience, but he never raised a rifle in battle again. And yet, across the world his name echoed. Analysts, historians, military experts, they kept coming back to him. 505 confirmed kills, no scope in just 100 days. As reports, diaries, and combat logs surfaced, the legend became fact. Simo Häyhä was the most effective sniper in recorded history, but it wasn't the numbers that impressed. It was the how. Military academies began studying him. Manuals were written, psychological profiles, tactical doctrines. They called it the Häyhä method. Perfect camouflage, extreme patience, mastery of terrain, solo operations, technical perfection, no tech, no scope, no GPS, just skill. He was a minimalist sniper. In a world where today special forces use drones, lasers, rangefinders, and satellite intel, he needed only snow, a rifle, and silence. Over time, the public took notice. Documentaries, books, animated recreations. Finnish war museums now have exhibits dedicated to his story. His actual M2830 rifle, it is preserved in Ratinportti, but his true legacy isn't he behind glass, it is in the field. Modern sniper units from Finland to the US still teach his example, not just his technique, but his mindset, that real effectiveness isn't a gear, it is calm, discipline, and the willingness to wait hours for one perfect shot. In 1998, at the age of 92, he gave a rare interview. The reporter asked, "What does it take to be a good sniper?" Simo paused and replied, "You have to love what you do." Simo Häyhä died in 2002 at the age of 96. He was buried in his hometown, no fanfare, no spectacle, just as he lived quietly, in the shadows. But his legend didn't die. To this day, on military forums, in sniper schools, in war rooms and books, one name still stands when we speak of precision, patience, and silent lethality: Simo Häyhä, the White Death,